Hello, Kiki. Good evening, good afternoon. Hello, wherever you are, wherever you're watching this from, whatever time it is. I have a reference today. This is part of our daily drawing practice. I'm sharing references every day in my Discord server, which everyone is welcome to join. And yesterday, I think it was just yesterday, I joined the app Red Note, which is a Chinese social media app. And it has been very interesting checking it out, and I found so many cool artists. And it's what I have found to be really cool, and I've spoken about it in other live streams about the connecting power of social media, and how I've gotten to know so many people from so many places that I wouldn't have the opportunity to, not right now necessarily, to go to and to meet. And I find the potential for connection and mutual understanding, and seeing that people all over the place are doing cool things and there are cool people everywhere is something which I appreciate a lot about social media. So I checked out Red Note, and almost everything is in Mandarin, I think. I know there are many languages, but it's I've been using Google Translate to figure out what people are saying and trying to contribute in that way as well. And I've already made some friends, which has been very cool. And this, I can bring. This was an account, so I'm not sure the name of the account. I have a translation that says "Handsome May Drawing Sketch," and Sichuan Lianko art teacher for many years. Welcome all new and old students to consult and pay attention. And the vibe I'm getting is these are references that are being shared for people to draw from, which is so cool. And there's some really nice sets. There's a set of older people. There's a set of younger people. There are many different sets in their feed that they're sharing on Red Note, and which is just so cool. So I grabbed this one and thought this would be nice for our glasses theme. And there's a really beautiful shadow on the front side of the face, and will nestle in nicely between Cara and Gris. Hello Toto, Louisa, Gabriela, Kiki. Thank you for being here. I didn't set up the stream until like moments before I went live. So I have this space here between Gris and Cara from yesterday, using this rubber band which looks like it's about to snap, to hold the page flat, because that's something that happens with this sketchbook. It's like the pages don't lie totally flat, but that's okay. And I thought this would be another hard one. Maybe. I was wondering about describing the glasses, because we had this glasses theme going on, and so I thought perhaps with this one, because it's a bit tricky, but there are some key things in the glasses that we can look at to put them in the right place. So it may look hard, but it's amazing, and I'm really excited about this reference. Hi June and Hannah Marie. I'll put a 6-minute timer on. It's going to take longer than 6 minutes, but I'll start with 6 minutes and start talking about the glasses. I don't have my glasses on today. There we go. All right, 6 minutes. So one of my new friends started following me on Red Note, and I think I just downloaded it yesterday, I think, and posted some of my work. So I'll talk about the glasses, then I can talk about my new friend. Here, I'm going to try and get this one, the outmost frame of the glasses in the right place before I move on to the other one. And I was going to start drawing here, but then I realized, there's all of the facial features in the front are almost on the leftmost third of the head. So I realized, I need to leave some space. So I came further over here. And once I have kind of got this frame down, I'll be able to use it to figure out where the other frame is. Because I know this kind of tilted perspective can be tricky to get the frames right. And if anyone's wondering, if you came partway through and wonder why we're drawing people with glasses all the time, there were a couple of comments, and I've over the years had many comments from people saying how glasses are so hard. And I find glasses really useful, and it can be challenging to draw them, but practice, 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 and they can be really useful. So I've kind of got this one shape figured out. Not kind of. I'm confident with it. This shape is looking all right. And is anyone here on Red Note? It seems there's been a mass movement of people going from TikTok to Red Note, because apparently there's going to be a ban. We were talking a bit about that yesterday. And Red Note is the other Chinese app, big one. Here, since I've got my reference right next to this, we can talk about it here just to see. So the thing is, once you just start drawing, you may kind of default to putting the bottom of the frame about here. Or you may be like, oh no, it's higher, but you may still keep it pretty close to the bottom. But if you actually make sure you look and like, oh wow, it is that much higher, even though it doesn't seem like a super exaggerated tilt of the head, that there is, on my reference here, there is this full, this is almost like a centimeter difference. And this would be something that I would classically underestimate, and I would maybe put the lens a bit too low, and then you realize, oh, it's a bit low. But having checked in on that, and it's important to look at the reference, and the more you look, if you're not sure, it's also great just to loosely, freely sketch around. But if you want to have it in the right place, then it's good to be attentive and to really look. So it's a bit lower than the point where the nose is intersecting the frame here. I think about here. And drawing it like this, I just feel like that's way too high. But yeah, maybe about here. It will be the bottom edge. And then it's not, none of the frame is straight, but if I know here that I've got this difference in elevation on this side, then from here it's also going to be about that much higher. So just as an indication of where it might go, I can put those dots in for points of reference. And then from there, kind of work up towards it. Curve down around. And try and get, although there are no straight lines, still try and get the angles kind of right. And it's almost like it's a bit straight here, but not really anywhere else. How's everyone doing? Cassidy is here. Sahar, Wolverine, thank you for joining. Nice to see you. Yeah, so that's, with that, the glasses, the tricky glasses, the hard glasses are pretty much like in the right place. And this has been a careful and deliberate kind of glasses planning exercise. And it'll be interesting now maybe to just sketch really freely after that. And that's just the frame for the lenses. You can check in, oh, this is really interesting to see here. The angle of this arm is way different than this one. It's like this is going down here and they're not parallel. This one is a bit flatter. So trying to get that angle, realizing it's not as steep an angle as that one. And that's an interesting thing to notice. So I drew this in pencil because on my ink page, that was 6 minutes talking about these glasses. 6 minutes drawing glasses, that's right. And there's hardly anything drawn. Sometimes in 6 minutes, there's a whole face. But I spent 6 minutes talking about these glasses, working with the pencil, and now I'm going to ink on it. Okay. I'll just put the reference back up here. And the reference, every day I'm sharing reference. I pin all of the references. So if you go to Discord in the chat, you can go directly to all of the references and scroll through there and see what you want to see, and maybe find something there to draw. So now I'm going to use my calligraphy pen and just keep going. I'll put a timer on and see what happens in the next 6 minutes. I expect much more. And now I can talk about my new friend who I met on the Red Note app, who shares content of her chicken. And she followed me, and I just saw these shots of the chicken and videos of the chicken doing things, and I used Google Translate to say that's a lovely chicken, and we're now friends, and we've been having a conversation. Turns out she's going to be teaching architectural watercolor, and she was just telling me how great chickens are, because I was like, that is a great chicken. And she had to go to the vet with it today, but it's okay. Chicken's name is Google Ball, because Google is like the sound that chickens make, and ball because the chicken looks like a ball. And it's been really interesting. It's the most I've ever used Google Translate, because, and that's something that I found really cool. There's a lot of, like, the recommended content you get shown is like people being like, here is what to do. Welcome to Red Note. Learn some Chinese. Use these sayings. Use this slang. This means this. And it's and just seeing, and it's just been like the last few days apparently, that there's this a lot of movement. And this is my chicken friend said that she'd never seen so many foreigners on the app before, and because of TikTok being attacked by US regulations, a lot of TikTok users are just going to Red Note. And really interesting was one person also saying, like, these are the do's and don'ts. You can talk critically about the US government. We love that kind of stuff, but you cannot criticize the government of China on this app. And that there is, because censorship is a thing. And I wonder about the balance, because that's something that's criticized, I think, a lot about Chinese policy and government. And I'm not feeling like I'm a fan of any governments, and it's not about the governments, it's about the real people that can be encountered, and relations that can be kind of made, or even if it's just a brief connection. It's just so interesting it's kind of like traveling, just traveling on the internet, meeting someone who loves her chicken, or meeting some amazing artists from China. And it's interesting there, people saying this is like, do this, don't do this, we love this kind of stuff will get you kicked off the app. And yeah, it's interesting. Wolverine. It is practice. This is definitely practice. You're doing ink. Mistake. I'm doing ink, but I'm going carefully, and then I'm going to use my brush pen to bring some values around here. So similar to the way I've done the last few on this page, there's a bit of a theme to the process that I'm
I'm focusing on line, and then I can move some ink around with water, and then I can kind of tighten up the drawing a bit. It would be interesting what part of the inking process is making it difficult. That would be interesting to know. And using ink is great because you do make mistakes, but that's part of learning. And then you're like, whoa, this was too much. This doesn't look anything like I want it to. This is all too dark. Well, this part of the face, which is actually quite light, I've made really dark. You got to collect the experience of what it's like working with it for sure. Because once you put it on the paper, it's there. And then you've got to figure out what you're going to do about it. So that is like the main difficulty, challenge, but also blessing of using ink. And I'm doing it this way. It would also be interesting to do really light wash before putting contours down and stuff. And here I'm just putting little marks to kind of indicate where I'm putting the different shapes. Like where these shadow shapes going to be. What have people been doing today? What's happening in your lives? I've been napping. As I mentioned, I've been a bit under the weather. And usually, I've often been resistant to taking painkillers and stuff. But I had a pretty bad night, headache all through the night. And so I have been operating with anti-inflammatory today, and it makes such a difference just to being able to stand and talk and move. But by Sunday, I shall be on top of the world. But like this, I feel good like this. Like feels good to draw. But yeah, Sunday is the webinar, and lots of people have registered for it, which is great. I'm really looking forward to hanging out and sketching with you all. It's going to be very different to this kind of drawing. It's going to be a lot looser, a lot different, leaning into lightness. And the link is in the description if you would still like to register for Sunday's workshop. And apart from taking naps, my mission this week is I'm creating like a plan for the year for my Patreon, and I want to have it kind of intertwined with the themes I will be working through with the live sketch sessions for Let's Face It. Every month I'm doing a live sketch session. And I thought it'd be really cool to map out a journey thematically through the year of the different content and the different things we're going to focus on in our drawing together. And my mentorship is starting after the webinar, and for those of you that are signed up, I'm going to send you a questionnaire of sorts, and it would be cool. Like I haven't spoken to you directly about it, but I know that a couple of you are here. Okay, Cassidy. I have a email list, but you can send me a private message with your email address, and I'll make sure you have the details for it. So if you think you're registered for the webinar but you're not sure, you should have received an email from me. That was another 6 minutes. An email from me with the Zoom link
and just pretty basic stuff. Me saying that I'm going to be working with colored pencils and blending stump. And I will email you that link. So check your inboxes. Some people have registered a couple times, so maybe check your spam filter as well. Now I'm going to spread some ink around. Oh, what I was about to say was that I'll be making a questionnaire for the initial impulse of working together in the mentorship, and what your challenges are, what your inspirations are, what you aspire towards. And it's going to be really cool going through that together in the individual sessions, and will become the initial momentum for working together. So I'm really looking forward to getting that out to you. Louisa might have deleted the email. Wow. Who here deletes emails? I'd love to know in the description. Kira deletes emails and has a very orderly inbox. I have a lot of unread emails. I have a lot of read emails, but I don't know. I subscribe to things sometimes, or get newsletters from, or advertising from online stores, and then I just kind of I blind them out. I just don't see them. I'm like, I'm that's not relevant to me at the moment. So it exists in my inbox, but it doesn't really get perceived. And occasionally I have gone on deleting sprees where I have had to free up space my email. Oh, I just went right over the brightest highlight. That's unfortunate. Just that edge right there. Because I was just thinking I could go right over the teeth. That's probably okay. But then I brushed right over the highlight. So this pen I'm using, someone asked recently. This is a brush pen, Pentel brush pen, and it is just a water reservoir. So there's water in here, and it has synthetic bristles, and the water flows from this pen. And I use it to move ink around the page. And I'm just borrowing the ink from all of the marks that I've made. And I was pretty how do we say, hesitant, sparing in my use of ink with my line work, because I wanted to come and use the brush pen, and if I had a lot of ink then it would be harder to control. Where the ink is going. I had a process for a while with ink wash where I would draw the portrait painstakingly, also enjoyable pain, but I would spend I used to use grids, which is a very stiff way of working, but it taught me a lot for a while. And I would carefully get the drawing in the right place, just with pencil, and then I would do ink wash all over it. And then to finish, I would do, with a dip pen, a nib, I would ink line work on top of the ink wash. So first it was a drawing, then it was like the painterly brushing ink wash, followed up by the controlled drawing, which is kind of like quite a different process than this here. And I did a series of 30 by 30 centimeter paintings. I think I did 54 of them. It was going to be 108, and perhaps it still will be someday. And it was all portraits of yoga teachers. And I had this cool vision, and I still think it's pretty cool. And it's kind of like, it interrelates really well with kind of a lot of things that I do and think about, I think. But the project was called Facets of Yoga, and I was collecting quotes from the teachers that I was painting. And I had this idea to make a book of them. And the teachers that I was portraying offered some quote, some wisdom, some experience or anecdote on the topic of light and dark. And which is always relevant. And it's really interesting looking back on it now. The Advent series that we did about how important it is to spend time creatively as a community in the times of darkness. Yeah. And I had thought about the process of creating a portrait and how it's a play of, or any image, a play of light and dark, really. And thought it was interesting to get the philosophical input from these wonderful teachers that I was working on. And each one of them was like, oh, there's one over here. This one. This is Raghunath Kapoor, who's also has a band, and they're all 30 by 30 centimeters, all done with homemade acorn ink. I've done my washi stuff mostly for now. I feel like it could get darker, that core shadow. Hi Nicole. You try to keep up deleting emails. The email's still there. Good. June, that's a good question. When I draw with pencil and make a mistake, do I erase it or leave it and carry on? If I'm going to ink over it, well, I like to erase as little as possible because I used to erase so much. And that was an important lesson to learn, that it doesn't like to commit to the mark making. And so when I'm working with pencil now, I tend to leave all of the marks as they're kind of a record of what has been done during the drawing process. And I think it's really interesting. It becomes, when painting over those marks, I feel like it becomes a really interesting feature of the finished piece, that it shows that history of the decisions that were made, which become part of the structure and the underlying pattern of what's underneath. So I really like keeping those initial marks in there. And with these, I work with these polychromos pencils, which, since I've been working with them, I still use graphite, but I don't use it so much anymore. I really like using the colored pencil as a drawing tool. And they don't erase very well, which in some way is then, it's much lighter and softer than working with ink, but it has some similarities in the way that you put it down and it's going to be there. But the good thing with those is you can build up the intensity of the pigment. So you can start light and then you can keep building up. And then it's cool if there's some evidence, some mistake, or just where you changed your mind and redrew something, and then that kind of lives on underneath, but then you intensify up on top of it. That can be really interesting. But I feel like if it's really kind of distracting and makes it visually confusing, then I'll try to lessen its impact.
So if I can erase something, sometimes you can then try and compensate the other way, which becomes a lot more time intensive of darkening everything else around, so that that initial reconsidered decision then kind of softens in comparison to what comes after it. And I also really love looking at people's work where I can see some evidence of the decisions they made as they were working. June has a very cheap coloured pencil, so prefer 2B pencil. Erase little. If the mistake is horrible. Yeah, that's right. Like it can be cool to be part of the process and the historical decision making, but if it's like, oh no, I don't feel good about having this here anymore, then sure, then do what you can to to adjust. And it also depends what the intention is of the piece you're working on. I feel like if it's a really quick sketch, then just like these timed sketches where it's like, yeah, just a few minutes, that is something quite different to if I'm going to spend much longer on something, then you're more invested into it, and either you so I guess what I would say is there's no wrong thing to do. If you want to erase. But if you can learn to adapt and commit, it really can accelerate the rate at which you gain confidence in your initial mark making. But if you're really not feeling good about it and you can get rid of it, get rid of it. And it's interesting how it differs in different media. Because there's some things where you could just paint over it and start, like with oil paint, you could just bring it back to the original state it was in. Or if it's with watercolor, you cannot do that. You may be able to lift it a bit, but if anyone has been curious about the mentorship, feel free to get in touch. I just had another sign up today. It was really nice. We had a chat about how it's going to be, and I think it's going to be really great. So if you would appreciate some guidance and accountability and developing some goals together, and that was part of the chat that I had today. It was like, what if I don't know what my goals are? It was like, that's part of the thing that we all will establish and work on together, and then work towards thing in a there's also different kind of ambitions that people have, and there's like whatever it is that you feel is your growth edge that sometimes might feel a bit stuck, or you can't quite see what the next step is. And I had this, and I had a mentorship, and it was able to bring things to my awareness that it just would have taken much longer without. And the process of
then coming together in a group and seeing where everyone's at and what everyone's working on and what realizations we come to or helpful things, sharing resources and experience as a group. That's a really great part of the process as well. So it's something that I'm really looking forward to. And if you sounds like it could be of interest to you, then please get in touch. Check out the website, because there's a lot of commonly asked questions and answers addressed on the website. The link is in the description. And if you have any further questions, feel free to ask. And also on Sunday during the webinar will be a great opportunity to ask directly. On the Red Note app, I have found so much incredible drawing. So good. Much really in-depth detailed drawing, graphite, really big pieces, and just so incredible. It's really I do a lot of brief sketching, but it's great to see some really in-depth, inspiring pieces. Game Freak says, what's the best method for getting better at drawing? Drawing a lot, I would say. And I think having a sketchbook and sketching things, just developing a habit of sketching. I remember when I first kind of came to the realization, like, this is the coolest thing I could imagine doing. I was like, but I'm not one of those people who draws all the time. I just don't draw all the time. I draw sometimes. And then through just by doing it, eventually kind of now I'm drawing every day and hosting events. But there was a phase of getting into the practice of drawing where I had my sketchbook with me, and when I was on public transport or just taking a break somewhere in a city, I would just take out my sketchbook and sketch something I saw, or sketch some people at a cafe, or sketch screenshots from Game of Thrones, and whatever visually captured my attention. And that's part of like the learning what it is that we would like to share, is being aware of what is it that we are drawn to when we see something. Why do we see an image that makes us think like, oh, that is so cool? Whether it's something an artist has done, or just a moment or a scene in life, or something in the landscape or in a city. There's sometimes something will just be visually breathtaking or arresting, or there's something there. And if through the process of just taking time to draw and be aware of the things that make us want to draw them, that is a super cool practice. That being said, my sketchbook that I'm talking about, when I was just starting to develop a sketching practice, I would draw fruit and chairs and different drawings with different kind of purpose, like whether it was and in the beginning, I think I didn't have a purpose, and I didn't really have a structured approach to learning, but I was just drawing a lot. But now I would say there's things like, if you want to have more confident line work, as you're drawing the chair or the apple, to focus on the line. And if you're in a phase where you really want to look more at capturing form and the sculpted feeling, three-dimensional feeling of it, then work with shape. And there are different ways, different kind of filters we can look through as we're doing our drawing and sketching, to be like, what is it that we're actually wanting to develop and be aware of in this drawing. And that you know, I don't know, it's, for a long time I didn't have any kind of direction or focus. I was just like drawing things which I thought were interesting, or drawing things from dreams. But then once I did have more of a focus or understanding of what areas I felt I needed to improve with, then I was able to bring that kind of focus and
direction to what I was practicing. And I think drawing from observation is amazing. Like, depending on what you want to do, there are lots of different things which are really beneficial, like understanding perspective, understanding anatomy, understanding lighting, and all of these things, like, they are super great and important. And if you're able to, if you do have that understanding, it will just bring such a, can bring such a great quality to your work. But I just love drawing from observation. So just trying to draw what you see, I think, is a great way to learn. And then drawing from life is really great. But also drawing from pictures or screenshots or whatever. What is it that you're drawn to draw? What's exciting for you? And from day to day, it could be something very different. And yeah, I was talking about working with ink. Ink is a very good teacher. It's not a forgiving medium, because once you've put it down, it's there, and you can't get rid of it. But it will teach you a lot about conscious mark making if you stick with it, which is something that I found after a long time of working predominantly in ink. The confidence in mark making, which I developed with the ink practice, transferred to other media. So I think it was like 4 years I didn't draw with pencil. I just used ink. And then I was invited by the Sketchy Art School to teach in I think it was that. Oh no, maybe I just participated, but I didn't teach. But it was the pen and pencil 30 Faces, 30 Days challenge. And I was like, wow, I haven't used pencil for a long time. This will be interesting. And I found, after a very long time of just using ink, that the way I applied my pencil and my mark making with pencil had really benefited from all of the practice with ink. That I had a clearer sense of contrast and bolder mark making, and just sticking with my marks. That what we're talking about, June, about removing marks that we maybe not happy with. That I find that was much less the case after I had dedicated a lot of my practice to using ink. I used to constantly erasing things all the time. And I'd draw a bit and erase a bit and draw a bit and draw a bit further and go and erase that first thing I did and come back, and everything took so long. And it was my mentor who said to me, Rebecca Gay, she was like, you should work with ink. There's so much hesitation in your work. If you dedicate yourself to working with ink, that's going to change, and it did. All right. I feel like I'm pretty much done with this. This turned out to take a while. I thought it might be quicker, but it's a quite complex reference, and it's a beautiful reference. So thank you to the person who shared this image. Handsome May drawing sketch. So this is someone from Red Note. If you're on Red Note, follow me there, Dylan_Sara. It'll be interesting. Some of my friends are there, and I don't know, can I get the link? Yeah, just in case, if you're curious in seeing some Chinese content, which is really cool. This was a complex one. Yeah, a good workout. Oh, that's a very long link. Well, I'll put it in there if you want. In the live chat, there's the link to my account. And if you're there, come and say hello. Yes, Game Freaks. Well, I just want to draw anything. That's a good starting point. So I feel like that's totally where I was at. I didn't have any particular thing. I didn't know where I was headed. What am I going to do? I didn't really have goals. I just wanted to get better. And I drew a lot of things. And it's interesting now because
when I look back, I just recently found an old sketchbook and I see the drawings, and sometimes there's months between the drawings, or maybe a break of like a year, I don't know. And each one of them is such a clear memory because I remember the place, I remember the drawing, but they were few and far between. And then I realized much later, perhaps, well, it was just part of my process that I took that time to just develop the confidence and kind of the normalness of just drawing, having a sketchbook, rather than thinking, oh, this is a bit weird thing to do in a public place or whatever, just to do it. And as I continually kept practicing more and more and more, then I just saw more and I drew more. And I see some photos and videos of artists that I follow and admire, and they have stacks of sketchbooks and they're so good. So I think if you just like drawing anything, then that's a good place to start. And I think that's it for today. So thank you for being here, and we'll be back here tomorrow. If you're interested in the webinar, sign up, visit the link. There's a webinar link down below, and you send me a mail and then I send you the information for the webinar. And if you thought you signed up but you don't have the email yet, try again, or just send me a message and I'll send it to you. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing your work on the Discord server and on Instagram. You can tag me Instagram, and this is now also my Red Note username. So if you're